The panel, appointed by the Thunder Bay Police Service Board, has tabled an interim report recommending many changes that will change how policing services are provided in the city of Thunder Bay. This is the latest development after multiple investigations into the Thunder Bay Police revealed racism and allegations of corruption amongst senior leadership, as well as inadequate investigations into the deaths of Indigenous people. The report recommends the next chief of police should be Indigenous or another person of color with police leadership experience. Joining us now is the chair of the independent expert panel, Alok Mukherjee. Alok, I want to thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to speak with us about this.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So why was this review of the Thunder Bay Police needed?
Well, we were approached by the Thunder Bay Police Services Board around February or March because, as you may know, Thunder Bay Police has been under scrutiny for the longest time. And most recently, about a few years ago, the Honorable Murray Sinclair had done a very extensive investigation of governance of policing in Thunder Bay. At about the same time, the Ontario Police Review Director, the public complaints body, had done a systemic review and called it broken trust. Former Senator Sinclair had said that there was willful blindness. And indeed, the issues go back for more than 30 years, when in 1992 there was a grassroots committee looking at native murders in Thunder Bay and how they were handled. So the board at this time, facing the challenge of implementing recommendations from Honorable Sinclair and OIPRD, decided to bring in this expert panel, of which I am the chair, to advise the board on how to move forward on issues of mental health, human rights, and workplace culture. That's the context why we are there.
Now, are you able to tell us about the work itself that the board undertook to deliver this interim report?
You mean our panel? We did a very extensive set of consultations. The panel was there, all 9 of us, in July. We met all of the chiefs, grand chiefs, deputy regional grand chiefs of the First Nations adjacent to Thunder Bay. We met with members of the community, First Nations and non-Indigenous. We met with organizations. We met with members of the police service itself. We met with the chief of the Aboriginal Police Services. And based on all those conversations, we began to form some conclusions about the issues that needed to be addressed. We also asked for access to the documents from the police board and police service, and we did a thorough analysis of the documents. And it was clear to us that there has been a lack of leadership. There has been a failure of leadership, what the Honorable Sinclair called willful blindness. One can understand that the 2.5 years of the pandemic had its impact, but nonetheless, within the board, there was lack of cohesion, there was a lack of vision, there was no plan, no strategic plan. So there's no shortage of good recommendations, and there's hundreds of them, but there's a shortage of a path for moving forward, and that's what we're trying to provide.
So what are some of the changes that the panel is recommending here?
Well, we, based on all those consultations, clearly there are some issues within the police service in terms of resources, in terms of the health and well-being of members, in terms of trauma. But there's also a bigger issue, which is that policing of Thunder Bay involves dealing with people, Indigenous people who come from remote communities, the First Nations territories, who come to Thunder Bay to go to school, for medical help, social service help, employment, and get into difficulties when they are in Thunder Bay. And that requires some degree of cultural competence, knowledge of their culture, history, the whole history of intergenerational trauma and community trauma and personal trauma in order to be able to work with them. So our view from talking to the leaders of the community is that Thunder Bay Police Service alone cannot provide the kind of effective, inclusive policing that is required. That there needs to be a regional model where the Thunder Bay Police works in very close partnership and collaboration with the Anishinaabe Police Service, the Anishinaabe Aski Nation Police Service, the OPP. So what we need is to enhance the resources and enhance the collective knowledge and expertise, find a way that these different police organizations work in collaboration with each other. That's one of the things that we are very seriously looking at. We have heard very clearly from the Grand Chiefs and Chiefs that we need to find a regional way of doing things together. The 300-odd predominantly non-Indigenous police service members of Thunder Bay Police do not necessarily have the knowledge, the skills, the sensitivity to provide the service that is needed in Thunder Bay.
Well, Alok, I want to thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to sort of walk us through some of what is going on and some of the recommendations the panel made. So we'll have to leave it there. But again, thank you very much for taking a few minutes out of your day to explain some of that with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.